Welcome back to Mr. DuPage's classroom. This lesson is for my Algebra 1 class. It is 3.1 two-step equations, day 2. Two-step equations, this is going to be all about some of the odd ones that we have seen in the past. Just like this first example where I have 2 equals 5x minus 98. We are used to seeing our variable on the left hand side of the equation. If you need to, go ahead and don't worry that it looks different. There's an easy fix to it. All we have to do is flip the entire equation. Just like you see here, it started out as 2 equals 5x minus 98. What it did is it took the equal sign and put it on the right hand side of the 98, and then took the 2 and put it on the right hand side of the equal sign. Okay, there is one big fraction bar. Keep in mind that the entire numerator, if we have a fraction like this here, the x minus 3 over 6, the entire numerator is being divided by the denominator. You must multiply both sides by the denominator of the fraction first. If you do not multiply both sides of the fraction, or both sides of the equation by the denominator first, you are going to have some problems. So you see that right here, they went ahead and multiplied both sides by 6. That is how they got the 42. And right here, these two 6's will cancel. Okay? The variable is negative. This one's pretty easy as well. As you can see right here, this is where it's talking about the variable being negative. What it did originally is it went ahead and took 14 and subtracted it from both sides. I ended up with a negative x as my variable. What we're going to do is divide each side by negative 1. And at the end, that just switches the sides. As we've talked about before, there's always a 1 in between that negative and the x. So that would be negative 1 times x. All we have to do is go ahead and divide by negative 1 on both sides, and we'd end up with x equals 4. Okay, my answer looks like it's right, but it's not correct when I check it. Go through your steps one by one. It could be a simple math error. So on the first 3 here, what we need to do is find the error. What we want to do is go ahead and actually work through the problem ourselves. So 8x minus 5 is what I have on the left-hand side of the equation. I want to get x by itself. The operation that is furthest from my variable is going to be this negative 5. So I'd go ahead and add 5 to both sides. That would get me 8x equals 4. Now, what would I need to do next? Well, I have 8 times x. So in order to do the opposite operation, I need to divide by 8. When I divide by 8, it's saying that I should get 2. But 4 over 8 will not equal 2. So this is where they messed up. This would leave me with x is equal to 4 over 8. As we've talked about in the past, anytime I end up with a fraction, I need to simplify. They're both divisible by 4, so 4 divided by 4 would be 1, 8 divided by 4 would be 2. My answer should be 1 over 2. The next problem, I have x plus 3 over 4 is equal to 8. It is what it did here on the first step is it multiplied both sides by 4. When I multiply my fraction by 4, the two 4's would cancel. That will leave me with x plus 3. However, 8 times 4 is not 24. So that is my error. I want to go ahead and cross that out. What is 8 times 4? Well, it is 32. That would mean that my 21 is also incorrect. I have x plus 3 on the left-hand side. I need to subtract 3 then. So 32 minus 3 would be 29. And that answer should be correct. Okay. Number 3, what it did here is it took and multiplied by this 8. I cannot do that. 8 is not in my denominator. We talked about this problem once before. What I would need to do is multiply the x originally. That would leave me with 8 equals 3x. I would need to divide by the 3. That would leave me with 8 over 3 is equal to x, and that is correct. All right. What we want to do now is we want to go ahead and try these. So please try these two-step equations on your own. Pause the video, give it a shot. When you get done, go ahead and restart the video and see how you did. All right, for number 1, I have -3 in the denominator. I need to get that denominator away from my variable. So the first thing I'm going to do is multiply by the -3. That would leave me with x plus 9 is equal to -6. Now I have I'm adding 9 to my variable, so the opposite of that would be subtracting 9. X would equal -6 minus 9 would be -15. I do need to check my answer. So -15 goes in for my x. -15 plus 9 would be -6. -6 divided by -3 would in fact be 2. So my answer is good. Okay. Let's look at number 2. I have 27x plus 16. The 27x means multiplication, so that is stronger than my addition. So the first step would be to subtract 16. That would leave me with 27x is equal to, what's 25 minus 16? Well, that is 9. Okay? The next step now is I need to get my x by itself. In order to do so, this 27x is multiplication. The opposite operation of multiplication, as we know, is division. So I would divide the 27. These 27s would cancel. That would leave me with x equals 9 over 27. They are both divisible by what? Well, they are both divisible by 9. 9 divided by 9 would be 1. 27 divided by 9 would be 3. We need to check our answer, don't we? So let's just talk through it. You can always use your calculator to check your answer. 27 times 1/3 would be 9. 9 plus 16 would be 25. So my answer is in fact good. Put a little check mark because we did check it. Number 3 is just like number 3 from up here. Okay, so the first step would be to multiply by my x. These x's would cancel. Multiply the 4 by my x, because anything I do to the left side of the equation, I must also do to the right side of the equation. That would leave me with 100 is equal to 4x. Now, here, if you want to, you can flip your equation. I am not going to, but if you did, it would be 4x equals 100. Since I do have 4x, that is 4 times x. In order to use the opposite operation, I would divide by 4. 100 divided by 4 would be 25, which would be equal to x. Now I need to go ahead and take the 25, put it back in place for my x. So 100 divided by 25 would equal 4. That answer is good, and I checked it. What about number 4? Well, the 8 is the furthest thing from my x. That is a positive 8. In order to use the opposite operation, or I can rearrange that left side and rewrite it as negative x is equal to positive 8, or negative x plus 8, is equal to 32. I can do that. Now that I see that it is addition, what is the opposite operation? Subtraction. That would leave me with negative x is equal to 32 minus 8 would be 24. Now I have a negative x. Remember from above that anytime I have a negative exponent, or negative variable, I want to go ahead and divide by -1, because that is also -1 times x, right? Well, the negative 1s on this side would cancel. That would leave me with x equals -24. If I put -24 back into my equation, this one's a little tricky. So what I'm going to do is in blue here, I'm going to go ahead and work this out. That would be 8 minus. Remember, every time that I've talked to you guys before, we put a parenthesis in for our x when we want to replace it with something. You do not need to write this down, guys. Just go ahead and follow along, because that will go into number 6 if you do write it down. So what goes in place of the x? Well, it is this entire -24. Okay? Well, this is just like -1, and I need to distribute, so it would be 8 plus 24 is equal to 32. 8 plus 24 is, in fact, 32. So my answer is good. Go ahead and box my entire answer. Put a little check mark next to it because it worked out. All right. The last one, number 6. I have my variable on the right-hand side. How can I rewrite this so that my variable's on the left? or I'm sorry, we need to be on number 5. I apologize. I have negative x over 8. That is division, right? So the first thing I don't want to do is multiply by 8. That would leave me with negative x is equal to 16. Again, that means negative 1 times x. Divide by the negative 1. X would be equal to negative 16. How do I check my answer? Again, I have a negative in front of the x. That is not saying I do not have to have that negative in when I replace my x, okay? So what I will do, follow along with the blue here, is negative, parenthesis, negative 16 over 8 is equal to 2. Remember, that is really negative 1. Need to distribute it. So it would be 16 over 8 is equal to 2. 16 divided by 8 is 2. So my answer is, in fact, good. Put a little check mark there because we checked it. All right. Finally, now we're on number 6. I have 42 equals negative 5x plus 7. In order to get my variable on the left-hand side, which is usually how I see it, what I would do is just take this and bring it over to the left. So I would have negative 5x plus 7. I would take the equal sign, bring it to the outside, and then take 42 and bring it even further. And there we are. We just flip our equation. Make sure that the signs stay with the numbers or the variables that they started with. Okay? The first thing, the farthest away from my variable, is this positive 7. So the opposite of positive 7 would be negative 7, or subtracting 7. That would leave me with negative 5x is equal to, what's 42 minus 7? Well, that is 35. Okay? Now I have negative 5 times x. In order to do the opposite operation, I would have to divide. So divide by negative 5. X would be negative 7. Okay? So we need to go ahead and take our negative 7 back into the equation. I'm going to go ahead and do it over here with a blue marker. So negative 5 times negative 7 plus 7. Notice that I replaced my x with parentheses. So 42 just stays on this side. Do not, when you're checking, try to bring anything over. Just work the side that has all of the operations on it, okay? So negative 5 times negative 7 would be positive 35 plus 7. 42 would be equal to 35 plus 7 is 42. So my answer would, in fact, be good. And I would check it. Now, that is all you actually have to do for the video this evening, okay? The backside we are going to work on tomorrow in class with a partner. As soon as you're done with that, you will be allowed to move on to your assignment. Remember some of these oddballs. If I have my variable on the right side of the equation, I need to go ahead and flip the entire equation. If I have a large fraction sign, with one number underneath it, I need to multiply both sides by that denominator. And if my variable is negative, all I have to do is divide by negative 1 on both sides, and that will switch my signs. Thank you very much for watching the video, and have a great day.